We're back for another episode, and today we have Connor Mullen here, who's an investor from Indianapolis, Indiana. Connor, tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you into real estate?
So I actually got into real estate. I was scrolling Instagram one day. I was ready to go to fly to New York, buy my dream car, and I found a post on Instagram that said use your cash to buy assets like houses and use the income from the houses and buy, and it had a picture of a car. So I was like, that really hit home. So I started looking into real estate investing, and about a year later, I bought my first house. So kind of a weird story, but.
That's awesome. So did you end up buying the car?
I didn't. I'm still holding out on it because I'm trying to get to 10 units before I actually go through with it. So
that is incredible. Awesome. So what's your end goal with real estate investing in general?
I'd like to retire early if possible. I'd like to have 200 units or so. That's kind of out there for now, but I think it'll be attainable in the years to come.
So you say you want to have 200. How many do you have right now?
I have 4 right now.
And do you house hack or live in one of them? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I bought my first house in May of 2020. And my second one I bought in October 2020, so I house hacked that one, and it just makes a lot of sense for where I'm at in my life right now. So,
gotcha. So 2 houses in less than a year. How much money did that take up front to get rolling like that?
My first house was 5% down. I think my closing costs were about $4,700. We had a little bit of issue after I bought it, after I closed, so it was probably about $1,000 in repairs, if that. But it was pretty much turnkey. I wasn't looking for a turnkey, but it kind of worked out that way where it didn't need that many repairs. So the second one definitely took a little bit more money. It was a $100,000 purchase, 25% down. I did all the renovations myself for the most part. That probably cost anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. I think it was probably on the lower end, but I just haven't really added up the numbers just yet. But there was a lot of upgrades we did because we needed to, and then a lot of upgrades we did because we wanted to. So I think that's kind of part of house hacking now.
Yeah, for sure. So what area do you currently invest in?
I invest in Indianapolis, in 46201 specifically.
East Side.
East Side. First house is 10th and Sherman, so not too great part of town, and a couple of blocks south is my house hack at Denny and New York and Denny. So that house is in a better neighborhood, better street. There's a couple flips going on my street, and the street over there's about 4 or 5. So I think that part of the neighborhood is up and coming. So
yeah, for sure. So and it sounds like my knowledge of the neighborhoods as well over there. They're not particular places where you throw a pin on a map and say I want to live there. What drew you to those neighborhoods?
So for my house hack, I think it was primarily the numbers. I did look at safety as an overall factor. So it is probably a C neighborhood, but mostly the numbers. The street's pretty nice, pretty decent. Neighbors are kind as well, so it's a decent living experience right now.
When you say the numbers, what numbers do you look at or focus on?
I look at monthly cash flow and cash-on-cash return. So I usually like to see at least a 10%, and I try to aim for $200 a month in cash flow.
Got it. Okay.
And for some of the people listening that are super new to investing, what is cash flow?
Cash flow is all your rent payments all your rent income minus all your fixed expenses and property management, maintenance, CapEx, all your expenses plus the $200 a month is just pure profit for your pocket. So,
gotcha. Cool.
And I heard you say property manager. So do you just sit back and collect checks at this point, or how involved are you with it?
My first house I bought, I self-managed for probably about 4 to 6 months, and I was over it. So I hired a property manager, and for the most part, I just sit back, collect checks, and every so often I write a check. but it's pretty painless at this point. I do manage the unit that's next to me in my house hack, which is pretty easy. But
Okay.
So over in good old 46201, house hacking, living in a duplex literally that you own. What did your family think of all this when you kind of broke the news to them that you were going to go do this?
They definitely thought I was a little crazy. We did some safety upgrades in the house, but they definitely were concerned for my safety. I think it took them a little bit of time to get over it. But so far, I mean, I think they're kind of proud that I'm doing it, saving a bunch of money from not having to pay rent anymore. And, I think it's setting myself up for the future. So.
Yeah. So we've thrown around house hack, like that term a lot. We haven't really defined it yet. What is a house hack?
So a house hack is when you buy a multifamily from 2 to 4 units and you rent out the other units and you live in the one. Ideally, your tenants will pay for all your expenses, so you'll live for free. Sometimes.
Wait, did you just say live for free?
Yes.
So the $1,000 or $1,500 a month that most people in this city are paying for rent, you don't have that.
I don't have that. I live for free. I get paid a couple $100 a month from the cash flow from the tenant that pays me my rent. So ideally, you'll live for free in a house hack. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, and you end up paying a couple $100 out of pocket. But I think either way, a reduced rent from whatever you were paying before is better than full market rent.
So how would you say that house hacking's enhanced your life?
Well, I already lived pretty frugally before. It's really helped me cut my expenses in half now. So I spend a very small portion of my income. I don't make too much, but it's much easier to save. I was paying $1,000 a month for rent before. Now I get paid to live in my house.
So what are the downsides of house hacking?
Dealing with tenants 24/7. Luckily, I haven't had to experience that, but it's something you have to be comfortable dealing with if you have to. And just living in a not super ideal place most of the time. Obviously you want to live in the nicest house, the nicest neighborhood, but sometimes if you're house hacking, you don't really get to pick that, or you have to be less picky when you house hack. So I think you just have to be aware of what you will be giving up if you.
How did you choose which tenants you'd allow in? What kind of screening process did you have? How did you get your doors filled?
I really looked for no evictions, no felonies, 3 times monthly rent, stable job. Stable job is very important in today's economy, today's world. So I think if the more research you do on each tenant, the better off you'll be, in 12 months when they're living there. So
one thing, realtor here, one thing I have to jump in on is in regards to fair housing laws. So obviously you have to be really aware of that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But if you actually live in the property, you can be a little bit, you obviously don't want to discriminate against people if they're in a protected class, but you can make sure that you actually like the person that's going to be moving in and that you'll get along. You have a little bit more leniency there because it is your primary residence in Indiana. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not don't sue me. But that's kind of nice to know that you can at least interview them. Hey, okay, I could totally see this person living next door to me. Whereas when you don't occupy the property, so you own another duplex, you don't have that luxury. You have to just go off of facts, more or less.
Yeah, the first tenant I placed back in May, I had to screen. I posted my listing and pictures on Facebook Marketplace. I got 200 messages in 3 days. So it was very stressful to go through everyone. Luckily, not everyone was legit. I had about 10 applicants out of those 200 after they recognized what my requirements were. So it just took a little bit of time for, takes 30 minutes for each tenant if you get good at it. mycase.in.gov, find out their criminal background if they have any, which is a great source. Screening's the most important thing, really.
Awesome. So it sounds like you've had somewhat of a learning curve. What's a mistake that you've made that you think could have maybe been avoided or that you would encourage others to learn from?
I think my number one mistake for my first property was not calculating PMI correctly, which is easily avoidable. I think I was just excited to buy the house. Since I did 5% down, I didn't really think PMI was going to be as expensive as it was, but it is. So I'm dealing with the effects now. So it's easy to avoid, easy mistake to glance over. Second mistake is maybe just not properly screening tenants. The ones I got in my place right now pay, but there's just a little bit of tenant drama between everyone. So,
what advice would you have for someone that's maybe renting right now or living with their parents, looking to buy their first house?
Definitely house hack. With 3.5% down on a house that will pay you, hopefully, or you pay a little rent. It's hard to beat that, especially in a decent neighborhood. House hacking was my number one tip. Helps you save a bunch of money from not having to pay rent. And yeah, house hacking is number one for sure.